into the reality of what he is. In that sudden expose of a quantum experience of self-recognition that becomes the hologram in which he finds himself, that becomes the hologram in which he recognizes himself. Yeah? Watch the activity of coming and sitting with you. Watch. Watch with me. Here. Thank you for that. All of the reading at the beginning of this expose, where I offered you the self-realization that this has actually occurred to you. Shall we look at it for a moment together? Obviously, I have come into a particular place in which you find yourself, which seems to have something to do, listen, with a reflected light idea about who we think we are within this arrangement of time. Listen, and just as obviously, now that you have come into this exposure, let's look at it as a reflection of light that has somehow penetrated into the correspondence of my observation of you. You discover to your amazement, and we use the word in this initial encounter, say to me, I'm exposed.
I'm exposed.
Oh yeah. You see that? In other words, the reflection of light that I had been getting from my consciousness self-identity, contained within my body formulation of myself, in a determination of consciousness causation of what appears to be this world, has suddenly underwent an experience in which, for just a moment, say to me, I was afraid.
I was afraid.
I'm going to teach real early about this because I want you to see the value in exposure. Shall I? Shall I teach for a moment? No matter what you do within the correspondence of yourself, the reflection of light that are determining the outcome that you want to find within your perspective of physical, mental, and emotional identity with yourself are only in your own mind. Are only in your own mind. My goodness sake. Now, because you were looking at the perspective of increasing a frequency of recognition of fourth dimensional association, we call this a hologram. That is, the idea that the formulation of you had all of the aspects and degrees of reality, of power, of light, in order for you to identify within the perspective of the hologram that surrounded you, that the limitations that had been imposed on you in the reflection of the consciousness idea of who you are in the physical body, while there's a fundamental admission that you are a part of this idea, there was momentarily an objection objectively to the idea of the entirety of the causation. Practice? Who's the cause of this?
I am.
You see that? Now, good for you. So here's the initial encounter with the idea that we're a hologram. Whatever else was contained within my own mind, my goodness, at that moment of revelation, at that moment, I recognized myself in the entirety of my relationship with the universe. Now I'm back into time. Now I'm back into time. Here's the teaching mechanism by which we determine the outcome that we really want. If it is true, and I assure you within the factoring of my illuminate mind that it is, that at no single moment does the factor of the enclosure of myself in this body form exist, all I really had to do was admit that was happening to me was an idea of my determination of what I wanted to see within the factoring of my consciousness identity. Now, that would be true, wouldn't it, with ideas of the factoring of my consciousness in regard to what I want to see, listen, in what appears to be my physical consciousness of body form. So that within the memory procedure of yourself, and now you're going to look at me. Let's look at me. I'm a teacher. I entered into this arrangement of recognition of myself to increase the frequency by which I can determine continuing outcomes that I want to see about myself. There's a presumption on my part that you are an advocate of the idea of what we term a miracle. A miracle being the certainty of nothing but that the entirety of the nothing and everything of me is only a true reflection of how I want to look within my own mind. Sometimes when we initially encounter ourselves, okay, we have a tendency to question ourselves, shall I use a term here, in regard to what we term a miracle healing handbook. All it really is determining is the outcome you want to see about yourself in regard to what you are. Your objection to it and to the continuing practice of conversion are nothing but your refusal to accept the entirety of your own self-identity. Are you responsible for what you see?
Yes.
Do you choose the factor that you want within your own mind?
Yes.
Are you getting that result within your own mind at the present time?
Yes.
Is that where momentarily the objective fear of yourself lies? That is the simple idea that, shall I use love, because I intend to teach a lot of love today. Through practice, I love you. I love your reflection. Shall I explain to you momentarily within the Miracle Healer's Handbook why I love your reflection? You see that? It's a bright realization of a singularity which possesses, I'm really going to tell you, is totally, say to me, unconditional.
Unconditional.
What an incredible idea. Many human concepts have attempted to teach the importance of unconditional love. The simple fact of the matter is consciously trying to teach what unconditional love is could not possibly be successful because the unconditionality of your inclusion of the figures that appear to be out there are finally only conflict that you feel in your own mind in order to express unconditionality. So that the simple matter of the idea of healing a factor of your mind is that within the hologram of yourself, the exact totality is nothing but the distance between the conflict you feel in your own mind and the resolution you discover that retain the idea of an unconditionality and recognition of yourself that is simply not true. Here, whatever else you may think you are, the illumination that just occurred within your own mind there was physical and mental in the idea of yourself and emotional in regard to how unconditionally I have become in my love for my recognition of myself. Practice? I've recognized myself. Say it.
I've recognized myself.
Here's a reappearance of Jesus. He loves to come back in when you're beginning to teach the unconditionality of a new reflection of your body form. See, he has no obstacle with you except your recognition that in his appearance, now in my appearance, the manner in which I see myself will have no conditions of what we would call judgment, of concept, of the idea that this world is real. You see what I'm saying? The point you're at right now is if you have known for a very long time, look with me, that whatever else you were going to do, if there's a whole universe with billions of stars and galaxies of multitude idea. Obviously, this little fabric of your self-containment is unreal.